you got anything on me.
Don't worry, Egan. I got some custom-made handcuffs for you. I'll make sure I bring them next time I see you.
Please do.
So this was Blanca Rodriguez telling Tommy she's got custom-made handcuffs, especially for Tommy when she sees him next. But unfortunately for Blanca Rodriguez, she was never able to catch Tommy, whether it was for Angela's death, Poncho, or the warehouse that was seized for product. And for now at this moment in time, she thinks he's dead because of what played out in Power Book 2 Ghost Season 1. But what really is the game changer is these images that will no doubt drop onto her desk, and when she finds them, even though this is a shot of Tommy from the back, she's definitely going to recognize who this is, and this will probably bring Blanca Rodriguez over to this side in Chicago. But have they foreshadowed Tommy to end in Blanca Rodriguez's handcuffs, or will Tommy escape again? That's the question. Now, Joseph Sikora did an interview after the season finale of Force, and he was asked, can Tommy remain hidden forever? And he said no. I think like all things, there's gonna have to be an evolution of who Tommy is, how he's known by law enforcement. I think that when law enforcement, as we see in the Power Show, is on these guys' trails, everybody doesn't have the purest interest anyway, so that could be another fun storyline, how close they get, but it definitely is exciting. And he also made reference to corruption at all levels, not just with law enforcement, but we definitely have seen a lot of corruption, especially from Cooper Saxe planting Terry Silver's phone in Ghost's hotel room, as well as Blanca Rodriguez amending Dre's statement. So I really wouldn't be surprised if we see more corruption exactly like this, but I really don't know how Tommy plays this, because at some point he will be found, because he was already on the radar for a number of crimes in New York, which Blanca Rodriguez knew he was responsible for, but could never convict him. But he was also wanted for what Tasha pinned on him in Ghost Season 1, and then he faked his death, which is definitely illegal, and now he's involved with a drug game in Chicago. So Tommy's definitely been busy, and now he's on the radar for law enforcement for more than one reason. So how does it end for Tommy, because he needs to do something to make sure he stays off the radar, which definitely isn't in his hands anymore, and he knows it isn't because he knows he was snapped in these images. And there was also JP calling Kate from New York, but for now he remains a ghost, just like James St. Patrick at the beginning of Power.
He's a highly organized individual with an established network. He already knows how to move money through the system, is violent enough to control his territory, but still has something to lose.
Whoever he is, he's making big plays, he's dangerous, and he's not just passing through. He's got no known turf, no true allegiances. He's like a ghost.
So a common theme that we've seen across Force is how Tommy is definitely moving more ghost-like, where he's come away from making decisions based on emotion and anger, but he's now someone who's a lot more strategic. And at the end of Season 1 of Force, this was very similar to the beginning of Power, where Angela Valdez was describing Ghost, we had Officer Kayla, who was describing Tommy as a new player in town who had no known turf, no true allegiances, only answering to himself. But this ghost is definitely dangerous. But one major difference between James St. Patrick at the beginning of Power and Tommy at this moment in time is, Tommy's supposed to be dead in New York. So I highly anticipate the second season of Force, along with Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3, to have some sort of shift and focus on law enforcement. And they've already started to plant the seeds with Blanca Rodriguez returning at the end of Ghost, spotting Tariq St. Patrick in these images, as well as dropping hints throughout Force with Officer Vargas and Kayla sniffing around the Flynns and the CBI. And now with a crossover with Blanca Rodriguez, Agent Medina and Jenny Sullivan, this is now finally poised for the Power Wells to collide. Now Blanca Rodriguez made reference to heavy hitters she came across in New York who are dead, along with his whole team, and they were called the Four Horsemen, but now they're dead along with a lot of Serbs with the local Chicago players involved, meaning the Flynns and the CBI. So Blanca Rodriguez is aware of the Four Horsemen, who were supposed to be these very scary assassins, but very similar to Uncle Benny, Tommy dispatched of them quite easily. But in Power, we know the Serbs were heavily involved in New York, and even though we've seen them in Force, they don't just operate in Chicago, they also operate in New York, and Tatiana made reference to this in episode 4 of Force. So this wasn't a coincidence or an accident, because this is the reason why Blanca Rodriguez wants in on this case. And this could be the link between the two shows, because they've seen a connect in New York, as well as this deleted scene with Detective Whitman looking at the Serbian network. So let's talk about Tariq and Tommy, because one thing that has always been spoken of is how Tariq will need Uncle Tommy's help, and I definitely agree, he will need Tommy's help at some point. But let's not get it twisted, Tariq is growing up just to be like Ghost, and at one point Tariq was the one who was helping Tommy when he helped him fake his death. because this was Tariq's plan at the end of Ghost Season 1. So I don't think we should be looking at this in just one direction. With Tariq who will need Uncle Tommy's help, I really do think they'll need each other, because when they realize Blanca Rodriguez is after both of them, they realize they'll have something in common. For Tariq it's the mecha case, but for Tommy it's these images that will pop up at some point on Blanca Rodriguez's desk. So who knows, we may very well see Tommy calling Tariq, or possibly Tariq calling Tommy to warn him. So where this crossover began in Ghost Season 1 with Tommy's return, it continued into Season 1 of Force, and I expect the same to happen in Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3. But we need to see what plays out in Season 3 of Ghost. Will these images land on Blanca Rodriguez's desk? Will the Serbians connect to New York? And could we see a call of either Tariq reaching out to Tommy or Tommy reaching out to Tariq? I do think all options are on the table, so let's see how they connect the dots in Season 3 of Ghost. But with the Power universe expanding, let's talk about a theory I ran by my Twitter just before the season finale of Force aired. And it was this. I said I feel D-Mac has such a big role to play in Force, and I would really love him to see cross paths with Tariq in the future. And ironically, we did see the start of the crossover which we just went through, but it was more so with law enforcement. But with the Power universe ever expanding season by season, and with Force and Ghost running in real time, there are just so many other avenues they can go down in terms of crossovers with Tariq and D-Mac crossing paths, and this is something I really would love to see happen. Not now, but in a few seasons, because I do think D-Mac's place is in Chicago under Tommy, where he can grow and develop his character. But with D-Mac and Tariq being Tommy's nephews, there are a few similarities between the two, but more so differences, so let's have a look at both. Now, one thing Tommy made reference to when it came to both Tariq and D-Mac was both of them remind him of Ghost, because he was someone who was always with his head in his books, and he was very smart. But when it comes to Tariq, even though he is book smart just like his father, he still is gonna make mistakes, because he's young, and so is D-Mac, just like the move he made with Cousin Buddy. But essentially Tariq reminds Tommy of Ghost for all the wrong reasons.
Loyal only to your own cause. Sound exactly like Ghost.
And this was after Tariq tipped off Dre to let him know there was a hit on him, because Dre helped him get his enemy, who was Ray Ray. And fast forward to Power Book 2 Ghost, he pulled another maneuver which was very Ghost-like again. Monet pulled up right behind Tommy, just like when Dre pulled up behind him at the end of Season 2 of Power, and this made Tommy say this shit is exactly like Ghost. But bringing it back to Power Book 4 Force, D-Mac is also a mathematical genius, and he made reference to how he couldn't read until he was 6, but he always had a mind for numbers. But because of his background and growing up without JP in his life and no word of his mom, which we're gonna come back to later on, he found himself in the streets, not really out of choice, but because there really wasn't anything left for him. So this brings me on to the differences between the two, because there are a lot more differences than similarities when it comes to Tariq and D-Mac. Now, Tariq was someone who grew up with both parents in his penthouse suite, with his twin sister Raina, Yasmin, Grandma Estelle, as well as Uncle Tommy. He was also privileged enough to go to a good school and had Ghost and Tasha who tried to keep him on the right path, at the beginning anyway. But Tariq's real turn came when he started to uncover the lies behind Ghost's past, Sean's death, and Kanan's manipulation, which is when we saw Tariq enter the streets and start to learn the game under Slim. But in contrast, D-Mac was in the game because of circumstances. So where Tariq chose this life, D-Mac was more so pushed, because his teachers didn't exactly believe in him. He also grew up without any parents guiding him on the right path, and instead he had to rely on people like Jannard. But there definitely is time for D-Mac to turn his life around and move away from the streets, and if Tommy and JP push him hard enough. But we also had that worked out for Tariq when Ghost tried to stop him from living a life of misery, and ironically we're now watching him do exactly what Ghost did for 6 seasons of Power, which is try and have an exit strategy from the game. So with Tommy knowing the consequences, could JP and Tommy try and send him college, possibly even Stansfield? Now, as much as I would love this to happen, I don't think so, because one thing Tommy would never do is knowingly send D-Mac anywhere near Tariq St. Patrick, because he knows exactly who Tariq is.
You're just as low down and grimy as your old man. Ghost was right. You lied to me. You stole from me. I can't trust you.
So this brings me back around to how I mentioned Tariq reminds Tommy of Ghost for all the wrong reasons, because this was before he even killed Ghost, when he called Tariq as grimy as his father. He also knows the path Tariq is going down with the Tejadas, and I'm sure Tommy would have been well aware of Tariq's court case, as well as knowing what Grandma Estelle said and how he was the one responsible for his broken family. So I really don't believe Tommy would knowingly send D-Mac anywhere near Tariq St. Patrick. There is no way Tommy would take that chance. But it doesn't mean they can't cross paths in the future, because this Tariq, Tommy, and Tasha reunion is something I fully expect to happen at some point in the future, and now you can also add D-Mac and JP into the mix. And someone who I don't think we should be forgetting is D-Mac's mom. Now JP made reference to her in episode 2, and he mentioned how she took D-Mac away when he was 2, and that was because JP came out. But this is a very similar situation to Raising Kanan, where we didn't hear much about Jukebox's mom, but she has been casted for season 2, so I really wouldn't be surprised if they planted the seed with these medical records, and this being the link to revealing who his mom is, so I really wouldn't be surprised to see D-Mac's mom being introduced at some point in Force. But I really do believe D-Mac is someone who Tommy will take under his wing, and we're gonna really grow to like D-Mac, similar to how much we like Liliana and Tommy's relationship, because it was a special relationship. But I do feel D-Mac's growth can be even bigger over the course of 3, 4, or 5 seasons, very similar to how Tariq is now the main character on Ghost. So I really do feel he's going to be a big character, especially being Tommy's nephew. So drop all your comments down below and let me know how you think this would go down if Tariq and D-Mac do meet in the Power universe. And also let me know your thoughts on the crossover with Blanca Rodriguez. So drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and of course if you're new to the channel and you haven't done so already, then remember to smash the subscribe button if you want to see everything Power 4 Force and Power Universe related. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.